there's an artist who, way back in the day of when magic was still kind of the Wild West in terms of their art, nobody knew that this guy was a neo-Nazi.
Okay,
And
that's
they
fun.
had commissioned him to do some art. The card is called Invoke Prejudice, first of all.
No, that's not great.
So this guy is since it came out that he was a neo-Nazi, is like banned from all events now.
Okay.
And very recently, a friend of mine ran
If
into him.
opponent casts a summon spell that does not match the color of one of the creatures under your control, that spell is countered unless the caster pays an additional X.
Just you have to pay more.
Pay
more
whatever,
resources to cast
where
it.
X is the casting cost of the summoning spell. So if you're brown, you get charged more.
But yeah, he showed up
Those
at
fucking goblins, man.
This guy showed up at a magic event, even though he's banned from all of them. And my friend saw him there, and he recognized him. And he was like, "This guy's not supposed to be here."
Yeah.
And so he went and he told security.
They
and
got
then,
a picture of him of his little
yeah,
headshot.
not
Says
allowed in
banned.
here. And so he went and grabbed security, and security was like, "Okay, we're gonna go grab him." He's like, "Wait, hold on." And it just dawned on him that if he went, he had a place out of this card, and this card's really old and actually worth money.
Oh my god.
If I go get this signed by this
Yeah.
guy first, it's going to be
shit.
worth way more money. And he's like, security, give me 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes. Jesus.
Can you make it out to eBay?
Yeah. And so he ran up and he got the card signed, and then he literally turned around and like
Security.
gave a thumbs up to the security.
That's fucking great.
Grab him, boys. Yeah. And they grabbed him and kicked him out of the event.
He's a Nazi. Get him.
Yeah.
When you realize where your love of money versus your personal principles conflict.
Yeah, that's a really real telling moment of someone's character.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us in Magic the Gathering History Corner.
That was a wonderful discussion.
So, welcome friends, welcome enemies, welcome small children, and maybe aged.
I really hope
aged
small
adults.
children aren't listening to this.
No, hopefully no small children.
What we've
but-
started.
Yeah, exactly.
great.
We've started a movement, and we will follow it through.
Viva la revolution.
Welcome to So What Did You Learn? This is the podcast where we learn from other people's mistakes, so you hopefully do not have to do the same. I am Alex,
I'm Zach.
I'm Dallas.
and today we have a super special guest. Seriously, though, we have a super special guest whose name is Paul.
Oh, I'm not that special.
Welcome,
but
Paul.
hello. Thank you.
Yay! So, Paul, how are you?
I'm well. I'm tired, but good.
Yeah, tired.
I mean, at my age, you're just always tired.
That's fair.
Paul is 78, but he has the voice of a 25-year-old. So.
Yeah.
Well, that surgery really paid off for him.
Exactly. Yeah, poor Julie Andrews. It was too early in the technology.
We'll link the surgeon below in the episode.
Use code. So what'd you learn?
to get
For
absolutely
20% off
nothing
your
off.
surgery.
So, Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, do you have a certain background that informs the stories you have for us today, or are you just a person living in a human flesh suit, walking around doing shit?
The latter.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
No, there's nothing really that exciting about me. I work in IT. You know, I'm in Seattle. I'm Asian, so you kind of have to. Yeah, exactly.
You started. Okay. We're still listening.
Oh, there's not much more to say. You know, I've been in IT since 2001. I started. Man, do you guys remember Earthlink, the dial-up internet
Yes.
service?
Yes,
Yes.
unfortunately.
I cut my teeth in IT doing dial-up internet tech support, where you would have to walk, 78-year-old grandma
Sure.
through reinstalling parts of her operating system over the phone. And so
And while dial-up.
yeah,
Yeah.
and,
Oh,
and
fun.
dial-up.
Oh, God.
And of course, it's dial-up, so if they need to test it, you need to hang up and then call them back.
Oh, Jesus.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was awful.
What a time to be alive.
right?
Just wanted to go to AOL.
I remember having to pay extra for Earthlink email addresses.
Oh yeah,
Really?
That was a thing, right?
yeah. Well, they
Okay.
had like 500 different domains you could buy email
Sure.
addresses from,
God.
but they were all awful. None of
Yeah.
them were worth it.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, aside from that, I know Dallas. I've known Dallas for years.
Oh,
I
good.
was saying before.
I'm sorry.
So I was gonna say, like, any of us know you? Did you just wander
I just
into
walked
this
in on the
apartment?
street.
Yes, my
How
name is
did you
Dallas, and
how
I
do
know
you know
Paul.
to show up at this time?
I've known Dallas since he was 15, and like I was saying earlier,
So for like
he's
4
just-
years.
Yeah, 3 or 4 years. That's it.
Dallas, you really shouldn't be drinking that beer right now.
Yeah. 11 years.
But
Close.
I'm going to get into a little bit more of how I met Dallas. Not the specific story of meeting Dallas, but kind of the circumstances around it a little bit later. Because
fun.
I actually have an agenda. I came
Yeah.
prepared.
Yeah, you're the
I
first
have
guest to
notes.
come in with notes.
Future guests.
No, he's not the
please.
first. The first was
that's right.
Rico.
Rico.
Yeah,
came
you're
in
right.
with his samurai episode.
Yeah,
which
Seattle
if you haven't
Street
listened to
Samurai.
it, listener, singular listener, go back and check it out because it's where it's
one of my
Episode
favorites.
2.
Yeah.
But even though I brought notes, I didn't bring props. I don't have a die. I think that was
Oh.
used before.
Oh,
right?
yes,
On
yes.
for Wendy's episode. Also, go listen to that.
Yeah, Whitney.
Oh,
Whitney
sorry.
did not.
Whitney throwing
bring
up
the
at
die.
Wendy's.
God, that baked potato sounds so good when I listen to that episode. It's just like, oh, I want a baked potato so bad.
Oh yeah, if you've ever got a baked potato from Wendy's, it's legit. My first girlfriend, because I
Is
didn't
the
know where
blood
to
extra?
take her. I mean, but no, my first girlfriend, she didn't eat meat, and I took her to Wendy's, and she literally just got a plain baked potato with nothing on it.
She didn't eat meat. How
weird.
unfortunate.
For you.
Hey.
Hey.
You know, anytime one of my friends tells me that they were a vegetarian for a little while, I always ask them, well, what was her name?
No, that's pescatarian.
Yeah.
I also was dating this CrossFit guy, and
No, we know who it is.
Oh, man.
He told us.
Yes.
So I just wanted to kind of like take you on a journey through my life, I guess, on some of the more interesting and amusing stories that kind of came up and the things I learned from them.
sounds
Cool.
good.
Beautiful.
You're
So
in the right place
glorious.
for that.
Yeah, I listened to a couple episodes and saw you guys here, so I thought I'd jump in.
The Solid Gold Studio allures another one.
Yeah. The open sign was on. Just got done feeding the cat. It's time to record.
You know.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I was in band. I was a nerd. And there was these 2 brothers that were also in the band with me.
What'd you play?
I played the saxophone.
So did I. Alto.
Yeah,
Eh,
alto
same.
sax.
Nice.
It breeds a certain type of person.
Yeah. In a way.
But so I met these 2 brothers and we became fast friends. We were all in band together. We had shared interests. We liked the same music, et cetera, et cetera. And I got to know them and got to know their family. And then I met their 3rd brother. I'm gonna call him Burl.
Burl?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck
He knows the lore.
You know the jokes.
I do. So Burl did not line up with the other 2 at all.
So he's like if you don't know, you know the Property Brothers. There's a 3rd Property Brother that does not look like the other Property Brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has an emo swoopy haircut, but he's like 40 years old.
Wait,
It's
are the Property Brothers those creepy twins?
Yes,
that
on
you
HGTV.
you're just like you probably fuck
They probably fuck their wives next to each other. Yes, in the same bed
or just each other
while making eye
or
contact.
that. You know, you know.
They're like, you're so hot, you're so hot. We look the same.
This room is so well designed.
But yeah, I'm just moving on from that.
Twin says is twin says.
Oh, okay.
Rule 34. It's okay.
Jesus. What have I gotten myself into?
You walked in here.
I know that's true.
Your mouth is open and everything.
Don't worry, Zach's not a vegetarian.
Eats all the meat.
Yeah.
So yeah, the 3rd brother was a misfit. He was not in band. He was just kind of this crazy guy that was getting himself in trouble a lot and whatnot. And I connected with him. And I don't know how that happened, but we became the best of friends. And we spent a lot of time together. And eventually we ended up living together. You know, he needed a place to live, so I invited him to stay with me when I was in Seattle. But anyway, back when I was in high school, there was this road called Roller Coaster Road. And it was this. I lived in North Kitsap. I don't know if you're familiar with that. In
Not at all.
Washington
I am
State.
not, no.
I know
Okay.
that it's a place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the name of
I know it
Kitsap
exists.
County.
So you take a beautiful, beautiful ferry ride over to Kitsap County from downtown Seattle, and then when you get there, you wonder why you did that. And you turn around and you
It's
become,
west.
Yeah, it's west.
West of
okay.
Seattle. Okay.
And it's on a peninsula right in the middle of the Puget Sound.
Oh, that's cool.
So we grew up there. It's very rural, and Roller Coaster Road was this road out in the middle of nowhere that was 25 miles an hour and very hilly, hence the name Roller Coaster Road. My parents had given me my first car, and I was in the car with Burl, and we decided to go a little bit faster than 25 miles an hour.
Sure.
Like 3 times as fast, I would say. And I learned that day that, it's really easy to get a car to fly, but to land it is really hard.
Yeah, it's usually the landings that hurt you.
Yeah.
You kind of lose control after it gets in the air. You can like shift your body weight around.
So we launched the car,
Okay.
and our, we had that the movie slow motion moment where
Yeah.
you're just like, oh shit.
In the air, you're like,
yeah, exactly. We landed, the car bounced.
Nobody likes the Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, that's the show I grew up with. No, I'm sorry. I would have been in my 50s when that show was out, right?
yes.
Right, yeah.
That's
Looks
right.
like them Burl boys are at it again.
Oh god.
So the car landed, bounced, and then skid sideways about 50 feet.
Jesus. What type of car was this?
Oh, this was a 1993 Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra.
Hell yeah.
Baby blue. And
It's like Tenacious D.
Yeah,
It's,
almost.
the car was 3 times as heavy as any car on the market today. 'Cause
Made
it
of
was
all
just-
stainless
It was just
steel.
steel.
Car Chase City. It's the name of the game. By myself with no other cars.
So we sit there for a couple seconds trying to collect ourselves after this has happened. So I turn to my friend and I say, Burl, and I say, there was a dog in the road. That's all you need to know.
Get her story straight.
Yeah. And we drive off. And we make it a couple of miles away and pull into the parking lot of an Albertsons. And the car dies. And I don't know what's wrong because I don't know anything about cars. That's not my business. I'm in IT, like whatever. So
Until that car has a computer brain, I don't give a fuck.
exactly, I can't diagnose this. I don't know what's going on. So we're hanging out there trying to figure out what we're gonna do. And a police officer drives up and pulls up next to us, and he says, there's a trail of fluid that I followed for the last 2 miles all the way here. And I'm like, oh, God. We swerved to try to hit a dog. And
Tried to hit a dog?
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, maybe that might have worked. But
Officer, you don't understand.
yeah.
It was a really mean looking dog. It was like it should have been. It was on its last leg. It should have been put down years ago.
I was doing it a service,
Exactly.
honestly. I was-
Hero isn't a word I throw around.
So I tell him, we were trying to swerve to miss a dog, and he's like, that's bullshit. And he says, we need to call your parents. Because at this time, I'm 16, 17 years old, somewhere in that range. And my dad is the chief of police of a local police department.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah, so my dad comes
Local
out.
here or local in Kitsap?
Local in Kitsap.
Okay.
So we call my dad. He drives out, and my dad diffuses the situation, manages to get the ticket down from a reckless driving ticket down to a negligent driving ticket, which is no longer a felony, thank God. So the only really interesting part of the story is, A, that I did this with Burl, but B, what happened afterward was kind of funny because I had this $475 ticket, and the car needed probably $3,000 worth of repairs.
Yeah, you ramped it up a ramp.
Yeah. I tore the transmission pan, like a bunch of stuff happened.
And good thing you're 16 because you probably would have shattered your tailbone if you did that.
Yeah,
now.
exactly. And my parents paid for it all. And I was grounded for 2 weeks, and that was the end of that. And kind of
Poor Paul.
right. The lesson here is to have parents that spoil the crap out
I
of
was
you.
going to say, how's that wrist feeling?
Yeah. And the funny part is, about a year later, they bought a new car for me for graduation. They're like,
nice.
yeah, like, here's a brand new car. Here, you can have it.
I can't say shit. My parents bought me a car, so
Yeah.
I can't say anything.
Well, the Cutlass was one they gave me. They decided they were just going to buy a new car and gave me the Cutlass.
Yeah.
And it was like 3 years old. It was still pretty new.
Right.
So, But anyway, this kind of segues into the next part of my story. A lot of my stories involve driving, and I really love driving, by the way. I love road trips. I almost never let anyone else drive if I'm involved. It's like, we're taking my car, and I'm driving because I want to be in control.
Are you
On
the type
Sunday-
of driver who's like, I'm driving, I'm in control, also no one gets to touch the radio, I get to decide what music we're listening to? Are you that kind of
Yeah, and not
driver
only
control?
that, but
You're
it's...
the worst.
not only
Why did
that,
we
but
have
it's...
you on?
He's an alto sax guy because I'm that same way.
It's not just we're listening to what I want to listen to, but everyone needs to shut up and listen to this part of the song because it's amazing.
Yeah,
This is the best
actually,
part. Shh,
when we were hanging out on Sunday, I just realized that's the first time I've driven you in 10 years.
Yes.
Anywhere.
Anyway.
It was weird.
Yes, it was strange. So anyway, me and Burl, like I said, this was before we lived together, and then we ended up moving in together. And I was working at Blockbuster Video, which is... well, it dates me a little bit.
I mean,
but
you know.
it was my first real job. And I got fed up of everything that was going on there, and I just quit. I put my keys in the Dropbox of the Blockbuster
that's
Video.
fine.
I closed the store at like 2 p.m. on a Friday. And I was like, I'm done. This
Fuck
is
this place.
yes, this is bullshit. I'm not.
Knocking over boxes of gobstoppers.
This is the last time I'm forced to put on Titanic on the overhead TVs.
You put your cigarette
I
out in the cash
wanted
machine.
Predator.
You don't get to watch Beetlejuice tonight.
Just leave.
Lock people in the store.
I just wanted to rent blowback. Weird
So-
pull.
I quit and I go home and I tell Burl, I'm like, I've got like $3,000 in the bank. We're both young and we're both stupid.
Fuck it.
Let's go to Alaska. We've never done this before. Let's drive to Alaska.
On the Alcan.
On the what?
The Alcan Highway.
Sure.
Alaska to Canada.
Yeah.
Canada to
We didn't
Alaska.
have a plan. This was before Google Maps and any of that. We're just like, let's drive. We're going to drive north and see what happens.
Fuck AAA. We don't need them.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm in like a 2000 and I guess it was a 2001 Saturn Sports Coupe, and it's
And you're driving to Alaska.
in January.
Brilliant.
Wow. That's, I mean, I noticed you had trouble sitting down because of your balls.
Well,
Got a foolproof plan there.
well, it's like I said, we were young and stupid, right? Really young and stupid. Really stupid.
It was last week.
Yeah, this was
For his 75th birthday.
Got to get reckless.
yeah. So we hop in the car and we just go. Like we tell a couple people that that's where we're going and we take off. We get to and this is again, I quit on 2 p.m. on a Friday, so it's about 6 or 7, and we hit Bellingham at this point. And we stop for the night because my friend has some friends that live there, and we're like, well, we can just crash here and then get a fresh start in the morning.
There you go.
So we stop, and at this house is another friend, a mutual friend of ours that we went to high school with. His name, we had to share the same name with the guy that I was going with, who's also Burl.
Also, Burl.
Which is a weird coincidence, but all these Burls around.
1 in a million.
Yeah. And so we stay the night, and other Burl, that's what we're going to call him now, other Burl.
Burl 2 you could do.
Yeah,
as well.
sure. He tells us he wants to go with us. And he's like, I've got some money and I've got nothing going on. I'm bored here in Bellingham. There's nothing going on here. Let's go to Canada.
And I believe you said you had a coupe, right?
Yeah. It's a 2-door. Well, technically, I'm sorry. This was a Saturn. It was a 3-door.
Oh, you had the 3-door
shit.
one.
Right,
I
the
loved
one-
that for some reason. I
Yeah,
thought
it
that
was the
cool.
stupidest gimmick, but whatever.
You know why
When
they
you're-
do the 3-door cars, right?
What was that?
So you don't have to write it off as like a sports car if it has 3 doors.
Oh.
Well, that's interesting. Well, I mean, I don't think anybody could.
Insurance is cheaper.
Or for insurance reasons.
I think so, yeah.
I don't think anybody could call a Saturn a sports car.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I think once it has 3 doors, it's no longer considered a 2-door, which is at a different insurance bracket.
Sure. I don't know. My parents paid my insurance.
Okay, got it.
Poor Paul.
So we're like, yeah, sure, come with us. Let's do this. We get in the car in the morning and we leave, and we get to the border. And, we drive up, and the Border Patrol's like, papers, please. And we're like, okay, here you go.
Show me your papers.
Yep, exactly. And he asks us some questions, the normal questions, where are you going, where are you from, how much money do you have on you?
What the hell are you doing here?
Well, yeah,
Where'd
why are you trying to come?
Where'd you go?
Yeah,
Where'd you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
No, please
God
don't.
damn it, I
No.
knew you were going with that.
We're putting you in speech jail.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Free speech jail.
That already happened. We can't copy that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So they're looking over our paperwork, and the guy takes an awful long time. Now, I've been to Canada before. I know how long it takes to get through the border under normal circumstances.
Now, did you guys actually bring your passports? Because that was going to be my next question. You guys
Well,
get to the border.
So this was before passports or EDLs were needed to cross the border. You just
okay.
needed identification. That
I didn't
was
know
it.
that, actually.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
this
didn't
is
even know that was a thing.
yeah. And so we are waiting, and I'm like, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but something's wrong. And I'm starting to worry because I'm a warrior. My mind automatically goes to the worst case scenario in every possible situation.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like,
Exactly.
did I kill somebody and I forgot? Like, what happened here? And
Oh, you just left the oven on at your apartment.
yeah, so he comes back and opens the window again, and he says, "Listen, we can't let you into Canada." But so we're gonna need you to turn around and go back to the United States, and they'll explain there.
Get out of here, hoser.
Yeah, I'm like, oh shit, what did we do? What did we do wrong? What's going on? So we turn around, make a U-turn, and waiting for us at the U.S. border are like 5 armed police officers with police dogs
America.
blocking the lane, waiting for us. Yeah. And it's at this point that I realize that I have about $2,000 in cash wadded up in the car, in the speaker of the car.
Oh,
Like,
no.
like
You know
you
what that's
do.
called?
Yeah.
That's
Well-
called civil asset forfeiture right there.
well, I put it there because I wanted to be safe, right? I've got all this cash. I don't want it. anything
Sure,
to
yeah,
happen.
you can't be walking around with it in your pocket. I
Right.
get it.
So you could pull the little speaker cover off and put the cash in there and close it up.
That's brilliant.
I'm like, oh no, there's so many things going on right now. So they pull us over, they handcuff us, all 3 of us, and they begin searching the car, and they take us all into interrogation rooms. They ask me a bunch of questions, how do I know the 2 people that I'm with, where are we going, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of it, they tell me to wait, and I hang out in the room for about half an hour.
Are you still handcuffed, or are you just like
No.
chilling?
They
Okay.
took me out of the cuffs and just left me in this.
You're like, I was
interrogation room.
suspended by my ankles.
They didn't even give me a Molson. What kind of bullshit is that?
Well, these are the Americans.
Right.
These are no Budweiser. So anyway, about half an hour later, they pull me out of the room and they grab my Burl, not other Burl, but Burl.
First Burl.
Yeah, first Burl. And they sit us down and they say, listen, your friend other Burl had a warrant out for his arrest. And we couldn't let you go into the U.S. or into Canada, given that information. But we've got him now. And so the 2 of you are free to go to Canada.
You're
if you
like,
want.
sweet. He invited himself anyway.
He wasn't part of my plan, so whatever.
Holy
And I'm like,
shit.
and I remember turning to Burl and saying, we can't do anything for him. So do
what are
you
you
want to
gonna
go?
So,
Wait, and how old were you at this point?
Oh, I was
20?
18.
18?
I was 18.
That's terrifying.
Do you know what he
That
was
is
wanted
18
for?
-year-old.
No, I never followed up on it, and I never heard from that guy again.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
So again,
And you're dead to me.
yeah, exactly. So we pack up, and they didn't say anything about the money in the car. Nothing. They let us go back to Canada. And
we're back. Hi.
So after that, we drove north. Do you know where Prince George is in Canada? It's like about halfway to Alaska from here, maybe 2/3 of the way. It's pretty far.
yeah, it's way the hell up there.
Pretty
It's-
north.
Yeah, and it's
very cold.
It's out in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing there of interest. It's pretty awful.
Yeah.
We decided to stop there for the night, and overnight it snowed 8 inches. And
happened.
yeah, and we're like, okay, fuck this, we're going home. So we just turned around and came home. But
Oh,
yeah, I know it's kind of
the
a
most
anticlimax.
disappointing end of that. And then when we finally got to Alaska, we realized we had no money for the return trip. So we had to sell our bodies on the wild tundra of Alaska, scraping together cents here, nickels there, until we could finally get a ferry home. But no, you just turned around and went home. Great story.
Your story's much better than mine. Let's go with yours.
You can always lie to us.
Yeah, that's true. But
This is my shtick. I invite people on and then I shit on them while they're here.
Thank you for coming over.
But no, the lesson here is just make sure you don't have a wanted criminal in your car when you try to cross the border, so you're not inadvertently smuggling a criminal across.
So
I'm the
much
same way
word.
too because
Like,
I was
word.
going through TSA to come or whatever you go through to come
Customs?
back from Iceland. Yeah, Iceland. And I was like, okay, you got to do this weird thing now where you put it in the machine and then you have to take a selfie in the machine and then it like matches it to your passport and then you have to go through an in-person check too.
I forgot about that.
And I was like, oh my gosh, what if I do have a warrant out for my arrest? What did
you
I
just
do?
don't know it.
And I just already felt like I did something wrong. And then he was like, all right, thanks, bye, leave.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool. Well,
yeah.
I don't have a warrant, and this weird story in my head that I made up to get myself arrested doesn't exist. So, put it out there.
Call the Uber.
Well, I told you I'm a warrior. Every time I go to the U.S. or the Canadian border, I think I've got a warrant out for my arrest, and I don't know what it's for.
Understand why?
Yeah,
Every
plenty
single
of people
time.
clearly have them and just don't know.
Right?
And also, if you do have a warrant out, don't go on an impromptu trip.
Right?
I have sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I have a good friends of mine who are Canadian, and I don't remember if I talked about this on the podcast before, but their
think so.
advice for traveling to and from Canada, because
Is
they
don't.
do it well, they do it fairly often, but their trick is what they do is they will turn on conservative talk radio in their car, and they will text message someone about how they're going to like a church retreat, and they'll just get passed right on through.
Yeah, because they can read your phones and what you're listening to in your car.
Exactly.
When you go up to the
They
border.
have big parabolic like listening cones to like pick up what people are listening to in their car to help kind of
Defend America.
defend America, but also like kind of profile people.
Yeah.
Like, what are you listening to? Are you part of a group that might want to traffic drugs or whatever? The
Right,
Fuck?
yeah.
So
Fuck that.
that's surprising
I'm
to
listening to Motorhead on the way through the border. They're gonna pull my ass out.
That's surprising to me because every time I try to cross the border, I'm like, which one of you fuckers has drugs? Like, every single time.
Yeah.
I was going to Canada with a friend of mine to go see Tegan and Sarah, the Canadian band group.
Comedy band.
They're
thing.
they're
Performers.
thank you, performers.
Yeah,
They're
there you
musical artists, and we're getting up to the border, and my friend is like, "Fuck, fuck, 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 fuck," and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh wait, no, never mind, it's good." Like, okay, you don't want to tell me what that's about? He's like, well, I have a sword collection that I kept in my trunk because I was moving it from one apartment to the other when I was moving, and I thought for a second that I forgot to take it out of my trunk. And I'm like, well, so nice of you to check before we went on a trip to Canada where we have to cross the border.
Beautiful.
But luckily, he had moved it. But
Wait, who has a sword collection?
several people,
Nerds.
All right.
The kind of people I don't want to talk to.
right?
You know, I like a good decorative dagger, but
Oh my god, decorative dagger! It's a new power metal, fantasy metal.
Oh yeah,
Band.
add that to rest stop water.
Stop water, decorative dagger. On that same trip, we were exchanging our money, our American money, for pretend Canadian money, and
it's got kids playing hockey on it. It's adorable.
and we go to the bank and we're exchanging our money, and they're like, "Oh, so why are you going to Canada?" And we're like, "Oh, we're gonna go see Tegan and Sarah," and they're like, "Who's that?" And we say, "Oh, they're a lesbian singer-songwriter set of
Immediately
twins.
flag went up.
They're twins. They're lesbians. They're singer-songwriters. They write music. They sing music. They perform music together." And they're like, "Oh." Pause. Shifty look. I'm like, they're not lesbians together. They're just sisters. And they're like, "Oh, okay. Well, have a great time in Canada."
And then she put on a rubber glove to handle your passport.
No, this is just at the bank. It was just a bank teller who was like in fucking rural Washington before the border. I'm like, no, just because they're twins and lesbians does not mean they fuck each other.
No, that in this case, twincest is
Not
not
wincest.
wincest.
Yes.
I'm upset that that's a thing that you guys said together. Like you practiced it or something. Why?
It's a thing, okay, Dallas.
All right.
Ever notice that? I don't know if you see a lot of gay couples that look like each other because you want to be attractive, but you also, if you're attracted to a type of person, you make yourself to look like that type of person that you're attracted to.
Kind of like people and dogs.
Kind of like people and
Kinda,
dogs.
yeah.
But you have ever noticed that like certain like gay people, like lesbians and gays together, will also end up looking like each other.
Yeah.
I call them doppelbangers.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So, this kind of segues a little bit into my next part, but I want to talk about really. Yeah, well, not that. I play Magic: The Gathering. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that game. It's a collectible trading card game.
Yeah,
Never heard
know
of
it. Never played, but
that's fair.
I've heard
looks fun.
stories.
Yeah,
I've
so
heard tell stories.
my buddies and I will often travel to events.
Is it better than Pokemon?
It is
Alex, please,
not.
I'll put you back in jail for a minute.
It is way better than the Pokemans.
Pokemans? Okay.
Oh, the Pokemon.
My Pokemans. Let me show you them. So we would travel to these events, and the very first time I remember we were going to Canada to play in a Magic event. We get to the board and they ask, "Why are you coming to Canada?" And we said, "Oh, we're here for a Magic tournament." And the guy looks at us very confused. He's like, "Wait, you mean like who can pull a rabbit out of a hat faster than the other person?"
Which just sounds amazing.
I know. It's like,
And you say,
like that's way better than what we're doing, but
I'm also
sadly,
bringing
no.
a rabbit.
Yeah, I should declare this. But
Origin.
so part of the Magic thing is that I've played a lot, and there was a period where I bought a store here in Normandy Park, actually,
cool.
right, just like a
could
block
hit it
away
with a
from our
rock.
house,
Yeah.
from here.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and me and two of my friends, we bought a store, and that's where we met Dallas. He was a regular at the store prior to us purchasing it.
And Dennis owned it before Paul.
Yeah, Dennis sold it to us. He was one of
Do
your.
you still
previous
own
guests.
this store?
No,
Okay.
we sold it, and that's So
It's its own. Okay.
We're
yeah,
getting there.
Sensitive ground. Sensitive ground.
well, so I met a lot of really cool people there, and Dallas was one of them, and a couple of other people. But we ended up having to sell because life got in the way of everything.
Sure.
I was actually, when I met Dallas, I don't know if he realizes this, but I was in the middle of my midlife crisis. And during that time, I bought a motorcycle. We actually went to motorcycle training school together.
Yeah.
I
Very
bought a
fun.
drum set. I got 2 tattoos.
Yeah, I forgot about the
okay.
tattoos.
I mean, how could you? They're on his face.
Right? How could you forget about them?
Yeah.
And I got myself out of an 11-year relationship all at that exact moment.
You made it.
Yeah.
And bought a Magic card.
And bought a
shop.
Magic card shop.
I never really connected all those dots, but now I understand.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And so, I'm going through my midlife crisis anyway, and I meet Dallas. And we ended up having to sell the store because I got out of that 11-year relationship.
I see.
One of the other owners got pregnant, or he didn't get pregnant, but his wife got pregnant with their second child. Mm-hmm. And the other one was going back to school full time and had just gotten engaged. And we're like, this is too much to happen all at once.
Yeah.
We need to sell the store. So while there were a lot of lessons to be learned with running a card shop, a lot of that's boring, and that's for a different podcast. What happened after we sold it is the interesting part.
All right.
Because we sold it to, I don't have a female name,
Burlette.
Burlette. We sold it to Burlette and her friends. And I remember within like 2 months, I was on Facebook and I saw her commenting on one of my best friend's posts saying, "I hope you fall on a knife and die."
Wow.
extreme.
So wait. So she was commenting on their comment, or that was her comment?
So let me back up here. He had posted something related to sports. I can't
Just
remember.
an innocuous post.
Yeah.
about
Well,
something.
he was disparaging people who like sports.
Oh, okay. I see.
And
I mean, as you do.
Yeah.
Sports make no sense to me, and I do it all the time.
right. So
Sports ball. Did they kick
go
a,
Piggers.
kick
Yeah.
a 3-pointer? I don't fucking know how that works.
So he posted something disparaging about sports. She responded with that. The problem was that he was a prominent member of the Magic community at the time.
Oh no!
Brilliant.
And she's the owner of a local card shop.
Yeah.
That's what you
Not a
want. You
good
want to alienate your
move.
base.
Right. And this made it to like everybody in Seattle. It got posted to the local Facebook groups and everybody heard about this. And it became this giant ball of drama
And
that
back
happened.
then, like the Magic community, there's like a good few stores and everybody knew each other. So if you
Yeah,
played
it's a
Magic, you
community.
knew like 40 to 60 people by name who you see on like once a week. So it's,
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a thing.
you could say it became a kerfuffle.
Yes. That's a
of a
perfect
kerfuffle.
word for it. So she, rather than backpedal and apologize and say, you know what, I was having an off night. No, she doubled down.
Fuck it. You doubled down.
Doubled down. She doubled down and went psycho on everybody.
Post a selfie with her with a fucking kitchen knife.
Right. And so that drama kind of died down a little bit. But the problem was that nobody would go to their store anymore. They would all just kind of go anywhere else.
She got boycotted, essentially.
Right, exactly. And their business wasn't doing well. And they ended up having the two of the owners had an argument in front of all of the customers that were at the store.
This is just getting worse.
That's the
and
best
worse.
way to ingratiate yourselves to your customers is to fight
Have a screaming argument.
just in front of everyone.
Well, yeah, and then one of the customers was like, "Hey, you probably shouldn't be doing this in front of us." And she's like, "Fuck off, you 17-year-old! Get out of my store!"
Oh my god.
It's like, okay, I'm gonna leave and take all of my friends and all
Right.
of
And
their
all my
business
money.
with me.
Burlette's a bit of a bitch.
Yeah, Burlette was. She's got some problems.
All right.
So anyway, the store just kind of took a nosedive and ended up closing, and it was really sad because we had spent all this time.
That is very sad. Especially something, you grew it into something and gave it to someone, they fucked it up completely.
Right, exactly. And it was, Dennis's baby as well. Him and the other people that were involved in that. And people like Dallas and a handful of other people, this was their home store. This was the place that they went to every single week to
Like
play
you guys
this
said,
game.
it seems like you had a real community around it. So
Hell yeah.
that is bummer. That is a bummer.
And just to circle back, Dennis is our guest on episode 1.
Yes,
So
correct.
you
Listen
can
to
always
episode 1. It's fantastic.
go
Which is
listen to
great
that
because
episode,
Dennis is a
because Dennis
fantastic
amazing.
He
storyteller.
really is.
So
we,
good.
we got spoiled with our first guest.
Right. No, I love Dennis. I've done a lot of business with him, and yeah. So anyway, the lesson here is, if really what it boiled down to is if you're a prominent figure in any way, it doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, what time of day it is, you're representing whatever it is, whatever your brand is.
Right.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep.
And you could say something completely innocuous and it's going to backfire on you. And we can see that all the time in media nowadays. Celebrities who said something 15 years ago. Well, James Gunn
Yep.
from the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Oh, mhm.
Yeah, he said some off-color tweets back in the day, and he got fired for it.
And
of
then
course,
rehired.
Rehired, obviously,
Yeah.
but there were consequences.
I mean, hell, even somebody who got 15 minutes of fame, if anybody remembers Ken Bone at all, but he got to be a mild celebrity during the 2016 election. Goofy looking dude with glasses and a mustache, fat guy in a red sweater. That doesn't matter.
I remember that.
But he was a mild celebrity, and his Reddit history got unearthed because people just went digging on him, and
God,
it
if
found
anybody
out
find-
that he was a pregnant fetish. Then he commented on a bunch
okay.
of that, and apparently they're called submarines.
Submarines.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Tell us more.
Yes, I'm curious. Like, why are they called submarines?
Because there's a baby inside the woman, and it's like submarining. That's the
that
basis.
makes zero sense.
No,
but I'll
you're
accept
the
it.
expert in this room. I need to know more right now.
Well, of course,
So,
yes.
is it like naked pregnant women?
I would assume so. It was a fetish. He was commenting on a fetish thread. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm also not on Reddit.
That's the thing is, like, I mean, if you have a fetish that's interesting like that, because I mean, most people's
Yeah.
fetishes are feet, and you're just like, boring.
Yeah, not to demonize any fetishes or any
But the
as long
more
as-
out there, the more interesting.
But my point was, he's just some random guy who got 15 minutes of fame, and now his entire internet history was there for the world to see. So, to your point, you kind of always got to watch your tracks, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, but also, in this sort of context, it's a small town, not small town, but like a tight knit community sort of thing where what you do definitely does impact your bottom line and whether or not you can continue as a business because the community is so tight knit. They will simply abandon you if you
Right.
fuck up as significantly
As this
that.
woman clearly did.
Yeah.
It's-
I would be hesitant to compare that to someone like James Gunn or Kevin Hart or whoever because they are celebrities and they still have very lucrative careers even after being quote unquote canceled.
Yeah, Louis C.K. is on tour right now.
Yeah, he's making boatloads of money. So no one. I think. Not to fight with with the gas being this is so awkward.
You're doing great.
But I think those things are a bit different from each other. Like they're not as
Well, it's a
You know what I
macro
mean?
and a micro level, I guess.
yeah. If it's a microcosm,
Well,
it's much more,
it's on a more micro level, but the consequences of it because it's such a tight knit community are way
much more
worse than-
severe. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, my point here is though, like I said, you just always have to. If you have a brand associated with you, always act in a way that suits that brand.
Ambassador.
You guys
of the
taking
brand.
notes?
Right.
You guys taking notes right now?
Yeah.
So you're saying I shouldn't wear our T-shirt? And
I
then
should
go
probably
commit
delete all
crimes?
those homophobic tweets I have floating around the internet.
Well, the
You're
funny
sending
part.
one right now.
It's called my voice, Zach.
Yeah, the funny part about the whole thing was that it wasn't even the guy that she had said that to that brought it to everyone's attention.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bystander. It was somebody who was mutual friends with him on Facebook, saw it, and immediately went and posted it to a large Facebook group
Yeah.
for everybody in Seattle.
Yeah, even if she deleted the comment, it's screenshotted and it's
Yeah,
forever.
it's forever. It's gone.
You
and
done, son?
Yeah, so the store closed down, and that's really sad. And it was
That is very sad.
I totally forgot that's why that closed. Or
Yeah.
a big factor into why it closed. But
it's easy to forget because we don't want to think about it.
Yeah, and I can see that being a very unpleasant memory too.
Right.
Dearth up. So
Yeah.
thanks for coming on and
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna get more depressing. Trust me. I've got
beautiful.
notes here.
Oh, I've got it.
I hear that it was the episode with my mother on that you're just like, oh, I can go dark. Perfect.
Yes. Dallas, you shared that with him.
yes, I forgot that I did, but I did.
Yeah. I remember thinking there's some things I want to talk about, but that sounds really depressing. And then I listened to your mother's episode. And I'm like, oh, no, we can do this.
Yeah,
We got this.
and we'll make
we
fun
don't
of
shy
it.
away.
It's fine.
So while I was running that store, I met a kid at the time. He was actually younger than Dallas. His name was I'm just going to share it. His name was Michael Sellers, and we became fast friends, even though I was twice his age. And it was because he had a real passion for the game of Magic, and he seemed to have a lot of potential, but he seemed troubled. And I saw that. I saw that he was constantly like not making it to school on time, was shirking his responsibilities.
He's having troubles.
Right, but he was at my store all the time.
Yeah.
And so I felt a certain amount of responsibility for kind of taking action here, right?
I get that. Yeah.
So I became friends with him, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to discourage him from this hobby because, frankly, and this is something else I want to talk about that I kind of breezed over, was that one thing I've learned. Yeah, I see a lot of people on Facebook and elsewhere saying, I'm an adult and I don't know how to make friends.
Yeah.
And I see that all
I have
the time.
So many thoughts about this. Right. You've opened a can of worms.
But what I've learned throughout my years was that in order to make friends, you really have to just kind of be in the same places that those people over and over again.
Amen.
Pretty much.
That is
Right.
literally my.
That's
Okay.
how I became friends with these guys. Is we
Right.
just kind of
We
went
like
to the
to-
same bar.
Yeah, people like to make at least if they come from another place, people like to make friends by hanging out with people. Like they meet someone, they're like, "Oh, you're cool. Let's hang out." And they say, "Okay," and then they do.
Right.
And they do that a bunch and then they become friends. But here, you literally have to do what you just said. You have to go to a place
Yeah, the
where
Seattle
people
Freeze.
are and hang out there, become a regular and become acquainted through exposure.
Yes.
And then you can become better friends after that.
Exactly.
And
So
it's- yeah.
the vast majority of my closest friends were all met through Magic. And it's because you are in the same. So Magic has a thing called Friday Night Magic, and everybody
Yeah.
shows up and you play Magic every Friday night.
Like Dallas was saying, is these people you see
every week,
Yeah.
you see these same people and you become friends with them. And so that's where I made most of my friends. And where was I going with this?
I thought you had
It's hard to
notes.
make.
I have notes. No, but it is hard to make friends. And so, like I said, the vast majority of my closest friends have all been through Magic, and I've maintained those relationships. But it becomes increasingly difficult to maintain those relationships
Very much
if
so.
you don't play Magic together.
Yeah,
So
to not have a set thing that we're all gonna meet up here and be in this place,
Right.
Instead of like, I think I can I'll let you know in 2 weeks.
right, Dallas and I were estranged for almost 5 years because he wasn't playing Magic, but I was.
Right.
And so we kind of reconnected recently, but. Yeah, so that's kind of a lesson that's not tied to a story, really. It's
It's just a good life lesson.
right.
Yeah.
You have these hobbies and these things, and the people that I see that are on Facebook and elsewhere that are having trouble making friends are people that don't have hobbies. They don't go out and do things, and that's really difficult to connect with people.
You can even make friends if your hobby is drinking.
Yes,
That's how
absolutely.
we all
Like, like hobbies, people think, oh, I need a hobby. Oh, the advice is to get a hobby so I can make friends. Like, well, you know, you could go to the library and read books and shit. That's a hobby.
Yeah.
You'll meet people there.
You meet mostly
Go
homeless
to a-
people.
right. Go to a bar, drink your liver away. You'll make friends.
Yep.
You know, it's if you don't put yourself out there, no matter what it is.
Yeah, even video games or whatever. Because I know plenty of people that never met in real life, but they're very good friends because they play, you know, Destiny or whatever.
Right. Well, the sad thing though is that it takes effort after the fact to maintain that relationship.
Yes.
Yeah,
If
and
you
and it goes both ways. If one person's putting in all the effort and the other one's not, it becomes very frustrating.
right. And you just kind of drift apart.
Exactly.
And that's part of life. And I hear so many people talking about, you know, I miss the days of high school. I had so many friends. And we
Because
just
you
never...
were forced to
You were
be
on the
there.
same
exactly.
fucking place.
You were forced to do it. So, anyway, going back to my story about Michael was that he, I didn't want to discourage him from playing Magic because I knew this fact, right? I knew that being around these people who were older than him, had more experience, could be a good thing for him.
Essentially, you knew he needed an after-school program, and this was a good way to do it.
Yeah, it's a good safe place
Exactly.
with good people and doing something that his parents always knew where he was.
Very well-intentioned of you.
Right. And so I continued to foster that, and I had a good relationship with his parents, and I would tell them, you know, we're going to go to a tournament this weekend. It's in Colorado, but here's all the information. We're going to go to this tournament. And I tried to be a good influence on him. And, you know, we would play Magic, we'd do things, we'd spend a lot of time together, despite the fact that he was so much younger than me, but that was fine, really.
Yeah, it wasn't weird. It wasn't... you didn't really think about it. He was just a person.
Right, he was just a human being that I was doing this thing that I enjoyed to do with.
Yeah.
And over the years, he kind of fell into a different crowd and started doing drugs, and I kind of lost touch with him. He went down a path that I couldn't follow him on.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he went through kind of a rebellious phase that I couldn't like break through.
No.
And so I backed away. I got off. I let him go. And I said, you know what? This is what you want to do. These are the mistakes you want to make. And I'm going to be here when you fail. And I'm going to try to help you. We had been very, very close friends for about 3 years at this point. And I said, you know, you do you, effectively.
No, yeah, it's at a certain point you can't keep trying to, I don't know, fix or change what somebody's going to do. Some people are just going to make the decision they want to make most of the time.
Right. And if you get in the way of it, especially somebody as young as he, at the time he was like 18 or 19 years
Oh,
old,
yeah.
he's just going to
Yeah.
rebel. He's going to push back and say, nope, that's
Don't
not
tell
what
me
I
what
want
to
to do.
do.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
He's gonna do it just because you told him not to.
Right. You're not my real dad.
Exactly. Throwing magic decks at you.
Pushing him off the
Oh,
table.
Some of the fits that like Magic players will throw.
Oh, I believe it.
That's a laundry
Are you
list.
saying a bunch of people who don't socialize very well and are nerds tend to have tantrums?
Boy. So one of the guys that I own the store with, he's Asian as well as I am. And there was this guy in the Magic community who would come to some of the stores and play Magic. He was playing against him, and my friend won. And I remember the guy takes his Magic deck, throws it against the wall,
Classic.
Like you do.
and he says, "You people always cheat."
Oh,
Good. You pulled the race card.
I wasn't there for that.
I'm sorry, the racist card.
Right. I was like,
Did you just
"Oh
say
my."
riced card?
No, I said race card.
No, that's
do-
what
I-
you heard, Dallas, because you're a
I do
racist.
I do have a rice card though. There's a club that we're all part of. And you're not welcome.
Get the
He's working his way up to saffron.
Yeah, round eye.
Jesus.
So
You people always cheat.
Oh, fuck.
That's just insane to me. And this guy's obviously an outlier in this community. It's a very accepting community, but what you were talking about reminded me of that. So that's a separate story.
No, that was fun. I'm glad you told it.
So anyway, my friend Michael and I, we kind of grew apart, right? And I remember I was trying to reconnect with him. I felt bad that I kind of not really done much over the past couple of years to.
You felt like you could have done more. Or
Exactly.
you had some guilt or something.
So I reached out to him and I sent him a couple text messages. And I said, you know, hey, we need to get dinner. Let's reconnect. And he said, yeah, sure. Friday would be good. Let's go out Friday. And Friday rolls around. I don't hear anything from him. And I message him and I say, hey, listen, are we going to go out? And he's like, no, I've got other plans now. And I remember saying,
I have a new God now.
right. And I said, that figures. 2 days later, I get a call from his parents. And he had passed away.
Oh.
He had overdosed on drugs.
Damn.
And like I said, I was going to make this a little depressing, and I'm
No,
sorry.
no.
But
I'm trying to find my next in for a joke, don't worry.
and I was devastated for a lot of reasons.
Understandably so.
The guy he had just turned 21, I believe. And so he was very, very young.
A waste of the potential you saw in this
Exactly.
child when he's still a child. But
Yeah, he's still a child. Like I said, everybody who's not 30 years old to me is a child. And this guy he had 10 more years of being a child ahead of him. There was this, like, I could have done so much more, right? Like, I could have pushed him to go out and have dinner. What happened if we just went and had dinner?
Right, that one little thing changed, yeah.
Right. Like, would that have been enough? And to be clear, it wasn't, as far as we know, it wasn't suicide. It was just an accidental overdose.
Just fucked up,
It
yeah.
was just a thing that happened. And I guess the lesson that I learned in all of this was that, first of all, people are going to make their own decisions. No matter what you try to do, how much you try to influence them, they are their own person and they're going to do it. And there's nothing you can do about that except to try. But also, you need to try.
Yeah, you have to make an effort at
Yeah.
some point.
And
Extend the olive branch.
Yes.
Because, it's like there's
Exactly.
this hole in the street on my way home from one of the bars that I go to. And every time I walk by with my roommate, I'm like, hey, there's a hole in the ground there. And he's like, I know. And I'm like, yeah, but if I don't say anything and you trip and fall in the hole, it's my fault.
right.
So I'll always tell you there's a hole in the ground.
Yeah, and I
Paul's like, that's not relevant at all.
no, but that's okay. No, this kid, he was honestly, and this is gonna sound weird to say, but for like two of my 2 years of my life, he was everything to me. He was. I don't have children. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't really want kids, but
Yeah, they
I kind of adopted him as my own kid.
Yeah.
Right? I drove him to school. So this is kind of the fucked up part, and I'm sorry if his parents listen to this, but there was a period in his life where he would miss a school bus because he slept in. And his parents' punishment for him was, well, you're just not going to school then.
Well, that's a strange
That's not how that works.
Right. And so it was clear to me that he had a problem with authority. And I didn't think he saw me as an authority figure. So I thought, well, if he feels like he's accountable to somebody else, to a friend, maybe he'll make the effort. And so I told him, every single day I'm going to be at your door at 7 a.m. to drive you to school. That's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
And I drove him to school every day for his senior year. And I made sure he graduated high school.
Damn.
And
then to see that and then go through what you went through, that has to be a heart-wrenching experience.
yeah, it was. I was not in a good place for 6 to 8 months.
I can imagine.
And for, I guess, just so you guys know, that was about a year ago now.
Okay.
In 2 weeks, it will have been a year.
Wow.
It was very rough for me. And this kind of segues into my next story and my last one.
Beautiful.
But what did you learn from this story?
Well, that was it, just that you couldn't really.
I'm here.
you can't push on somebody too much or you're going to drive them away, and also they're going to make their own decisions, right?
Gotcha.
But and actually there's more to it than that, and thank you for bringing that up.
Sorry.
Because
I'm just gonna sit here and drink my wine.
one thing I went through when he passed was that everybody kept telling me, it's not your fault, there's nothing more you could have done. And that's bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. And everyone's going to tell you that when that situation comes up.
Of course, the cliche answer.
Right. But everybody could have done something different. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just, his parents.
No,
Society could have done something different.
Right.
right.
Everybody could have done something different. And if you just let his death go and say, nobody could have done
No, it's
anything.
basically just washing
Nope.
your
It's
hand, wiping the
gone.
dust
Right.
off your hands, and it's like, well, What are you
I
gonna
literally did everything I could when in reality I just kind of sat here and drank my
You're not a
wine.
highway patrol officer at like the scene of an accident on the freeway. Like,
Right.
You can't just. All right, time to go home.
do? Well, nothing I can do here.
Yeah, and so it's kind of disrespectful in
It
a
is,
way to
yeah.
say something like that. And I think that we all need to take some amount of responsibility for that. And I don't mean to sit and sulk and be sad about it. I think you need to learn something from that fact, right? If we don't let his death be a learning experience for all of us, then what was the point?
That's very
Yeah.
inspiring of you to say, and it sounds like you're. I don't want to put emotions in your head, but it sounds like you're in a good place with it as best you can, being it that it happened so recently.
Yeah.
Obviously, things take time to heal, but you seem to have a good perspective on it, which I find that very inspiring.
Yeah, it took me a while to get over it. It took me a long time to come to terms with it. And there was a lot of other things going on in my life at that time, but nothing was going right.
Yeah, no,
And nothing's-
it certainly seems like you've had a tumultuous time.
Right. But, I came out the other side learning that, again, everything's a learning experience and we all need to take something away from it. We can't just walk away from it.
Right.
That's it.
Do you have any advice for the people who would normally go to the "you did everything you could" response? Do you have any advice on what people can say that is actually meaningful and legitimate, as opposed to what you're frustrated with?
I think if somebody had come to me and said, listen, you tried your best. You did everything that you thought you was correct.
Yeah.
Even that just sounds better. All
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right.
Like,
You did what you felt was appropriate to do at the time.
correct. And if somebody had said that to me and then also said, but it wasn't enough, at the time it would have been devastating.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I think that it would have been helpful in the long run because if I had had some way to logically latch onto a way to rationalize my actions
Yeah.
and what I could have done differently, maybe it would have helped me in that healing process a little bit more than everyone just saying, no, you were fine.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So it might, in the moment at the time, might have been helpful to hear something like, you did what you thought was needed at the time, but it wasn't enough. However, we all failed this person. It's not just on you. It's on
Right.
all of us.
Absolutely. And that's important. There's solidarity
Sharing the
there.
burden.
Right.
instead
Because
of
and like
denying the burden.
exactly. Like I said, we all could have done something different. And I don't mean to put him on the spot. Dallas could have done something different. He knew this
Yeah,
guy.
fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But to be fair, Dallas wasn't part of his life during this time. But,
Well, it sounds like he kind of pushed everyone away that was around him or any support system.
Yeah,
Right.
and going back to like 40 minutes ago, I wasn't playing Magic as much, so I wasn't talking to all the Magic dudes. Obviously,
okay, Dallas, we're not talking about you right now.
Wow.
We love you, Dallas. We're just giving
I don't
you a
know
hard
if I'm
time.
defending myself or attacking somebody else.
No, but seriously, obviously Dallas, he had limited responsibility, of course. But it was a tragedy, and I'm going to kind of segue into my next point here. No, go ahead.
Nothing.
Oh, sure. So I, at the time, was working for a small company in Bellevue. I'm not going to say their name because I'm still working for them.
Smart.
Is it Disney?
It's Disney.
Okay.
They own everything.
Brought to you by Disney Plus.
So
We're not getting paid for that.
We sure aren't.
we might get sued for it, actually.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So I was working for a small company, and the owner of that company was very aloof. To say that we were working for a rudderless, or we're on a rudderless ship, is kind of doing a disservice to what he was actually doing to the company.
An aloof dude in the tech industry? No way.
Right? No, this guy. So it's as if we would drift out into the ocean, and as on our ship, and as the ship got closer to land, he would appear out of nowhere, steer us out back into the middle of the ocean, and then disappear again.
We call that seagull management.
Yeah.
Fly in from nowhere, shit on everything, and then fly the fuck
No, he
away.
fixed it, right? Or is that
No.
Oh,
There
let's
was
make
no
it worse.
fixing.
Oh.
And it wasn't making it worse. That's the thing. He was just keeping things afloat.
I see.
Oh, okay, got
He
it.
would he would appear when things seemed to be going wrong.
No,
and
when there's a fire that he started, so he's like an arsonist that comes to go save the day.
Right. So I wasn't really happy at this company because of this, where there was no direction. The company wasn't growing. It was pretty bad. And then the Michael thing happened. And I was just like, most people, when a tragedy strikes them, they find a way to escape from it. And that oftentimes that's work.
Yeah, you pour yourself into something.
Right. But I couldn't do that with
And
work.
you're at work, you're like, table flip.
Yeah, everything here sucks, and everything at home sucks, and everything sucks.
I have no refuge.
Right.
So where did he turn? Ladies and gentlemen, he turned to Beanie Babies.
They're worth money.
The only pure outlet.
But the ones with the misspelled heart tags are really valuable.
Well, they will be someday anyway. You trust me.
My inheritance actually stored in Beanie Babies. You know, because
That's
one day it'll be liquid.
Smart.
So work is going along like this, and I hate everything, and I'm ready to quit. I'm actually ready to move out of the industry altogether. I remember going to the owner of a local magic shop and saying, "Will you hire me?
Yeah.
I will take a huge pay cut and just work
to be happy.
Yeah,
Right.
just to work retail and get out of this bullshit."
Yeah, you need to pull a Blockbuster at 2 p.m. again.
Exactly. I need to just drive to Alaska, but with my career.
You can't put your career in a car stereo.
And your career,
Speaker.
luckily, though, can't pick up Burl 2s with criminal records.
That is a positive.
But it can take you to St. George.
Yes.
And then turn around.
So things are not going well, and then the VP of operations at my company finally convinced the owner, you know what, it's time for you to sell this company. You're not invested. This is
You
garbage.
don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing. You don't care. No one here cares anymore. Sell the company. So he sells the company. The new company that buys us, weirdly, is smaller than us.
I guess that means that your company
shitty.
wasn't doing so well.
Yeah, no.
How devalued. this has
Right.
become.
But they come in, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I hate everything about this. Like, these guys have these new expectations that I'm going to have to meet. I'm dealing with all of this trauma on my own, plus just not giving a shit about my job at all. I just hate everything right now. So the new owner comes in, and apparently, and I've learned this after the fact, there were a lot of discussions on whether or not they were going to keep me because I was kind of in a prominent position. And they're like, are we going to let him go? And I'm like, well, let's give him a chance, I guess. So after a little while, the owner of the new company, he came in and he kicked my ass. I really didn't care. I would come in and like watch YouTube videos all day long.
Sure.
And would like dress like garbage and just didn't give a shit.
The apathy had grown to a great
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah, and the grief and the
Yes.
like everything.
So I remember him coming and kicking my ass and telling me, you know what? Why are you watching YouTube videos? This is bullshit. You're not going to work for my company if you're going to do this and whatnot. And at the time, I hadn't found a new career yet, hadn't found a new job. So I'm like, oh shit, I should probably get my at least
Get my act together.
At least make it look like I've got my act together enough.
It's like Office Space. You do just enough work to make sure you don't get fired.
Right.
You make a backdrop of people working for you in the background. Just like, see? It's the illusion of theater.
I hate to interject here really quick, but we used to have somebody on my old team when it first became an actual team. So we started it from nothing. I'm not going to do any names or anything here, but the thing is, so you would come in late and like leave early and do all the, kind of doing what you said you were doing, Paul. And but the kicker, the whole thing that just blows him out of the water compared to everybody else who's like that or is going through something like that, is that one day I walked over to his desk and I heard like keyboard sounds, like he was typing, he was talking on the phone, he was going through different screens. I look at the phone and nobody is on the phone. I look at the computer and on the third screen, which is the laptop you dock it on and then you get 2 more screens above, was YouTube keyboard sounds.
Oh, it's perfect.
Fucking brilliant.
Was literally talking to himself and not typing but pretending to type. And I said, "Hey, Jason." And he said,
Might have to bleep that.
Nah, it doesn't matter. Hey, buddy, I need to ask you a question. He takes his headset off, and then he turns towards me. The typing keeps going.
No, it's just really relaxing. I like it.
I just said, you look busy. I'll come back later.
Wow.
That's tragic.
That's a brilliant scheme, I gotta be honest.
Until
I was
you're
never
caught
that
in
bad.
it because it makes you
okay.
look so lazy.
I mean,
but
yes.
you put so much effort into being so lazy, you might as well just do your job.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I just love it. It's very sitcom-y. I could see Homer
God.
Simpson doing it.
Do you ever run into those situations where you're trying to be lazy about something and it ends up being more work than just doing the thing?
That was
It's
all
like,
of high school for me.
well, yeah, sure, but like when you're trying to bring groceries in from your car,
No, fuck it. I'm gonna carry all of them.
yeah, all at once.
Yeah.
You realize you have to put half of them down to get your keys out to open the door.
I did not think this through.
Right. So anyway, my boss kicks my ass, right? And then he comes back to me later and he starts to identify things in me that he thinks I would be good at and things that I would enjoy doing. And he comes to me and says,
I
hey,
think you should work at a card shop.
have you considered just buying another card shop? Maybe that'd be a better career move for you. No, he sits down and the first thing I remember, the first thing he assigned me was a company party he wanted to run because his previous company and and the old company were still merging. And I don't know if you've ever been through a company merger, but there's a lot of animosity that ends up happening.
Between the new people and the old people. the old people and the
Exactly.
new people.
There's a rivalry that builds up.
Right.
Oh, you're part of the other group.
Right. Well,
I don't like you.
well, at my company, we did it this way.
Yeah.
That happens a lot, right?
Yeah.
Don't give me flashbacks.
Right. So he's like, well, let's have an outing. Let's all go out and.
Oh, throwing things now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll put that down. So he says, let's have an outing. Let's go bowling. Paul, will you plan it?
Sure.
I'm like, that's not really my wheelhouse, but sure, why not? So I give it a try.
I'm not into planning. I just like to dose people with psychotropic drugs and then scatter into the woods and see what happens.
Haven't you seen my nymph outfit?
Oh, God.
So anyway,
Sorry.
no, it's fine. He gives me the task, and I do it, and I do it well. And he commends me for it. He gives me a bonus. And
Damn,
I'm
like planning a bowling party?
for planning a bowling party.
That's dope.
Though amusingly, when we get to the bowling alley, I had not purchased the top shelf liquor option, and he was upset about this. And
That's
he's
kind
like,
of an asshole move.
well, no, he's like, I should have been more clear with you, but I would have been willing to put more money in for us to get the top shelf liquor.
You're like, oh, well, what'd you learn? Give me more money.
Yeah, give me more money. So he does this, and then he starts giving me other little tasks, and he starts building new roles for me. And throughout this entire time, I'm actually enjoying it.
Yeah, you're having fun. Something new.
Yeah, it's something new. I'm getting positive feedback. He's engaged with me. And before I know it, I've got a 20% raise and a promotion, and like he's just gushing about me all the time. And all of it came from the fact that I had a boss who was willing to sit down and look at a troubled employee and say, would they be good at? And what can I have them do? And how can I reward them for it?
Yeah.
And so kind of the point of this, I guess, and the lesson I learned here was that, and I want to point out, like I said, I still work for this guy. The guy's amazing. I actually love him. He's fantastic. We talk all the time, and he's taken a real interest in me and my professional growth. Sorry. And the lesson here is, like, if you're not happy, maybe you need to find somebody to work for that likes you, that wants you to succeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know that can be difficult in corporate America. I know that can be difficult to find somebody who cares. But you don't have to go to the owner for that, right? It can be your direct manager.
Yeah.
And one thing I've learned after doing a lot of interviews, both as the interviewer and the interviewee, is it's just as important to interview the company when you're sitting down for a job interview as it is for them to interview you.
Yes,
If
yes.
somebody doesn't ask me any questions in an interview, which has happened 3 or 4 times, I don't even consider hiring them.
Yeah, no. If you walk out of the interview and say, I have no questions, I'm done with you.
Nope. Bye.
My favorite question is if I went out onto the, say, like retail, if I went out onto the floor right now and I asked 3 employees what their favorite thing about working with this company is, what do you think they would tell me?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah, I think it's super important that the like I said, it doesn't have to be the whole company. It doesn't have to be the owner of the company, but the person that you report to has to care about you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just not going to be invested. And that's
the
really
best
important.
managers I've had are managers that are like Mama Bear or Papa Bear. Like
I
they're like,
really
I
want
have
to
your
put
back.
some input in right now, but we're gonna have to talk after this.
All right.
All right.
But it's funny because, you read a lot of books. Well, maybe you don't. But
Why'd
I've
you
read a
look
lot
at
of
me.
Yeah, well, I don't think you know how to read, first of all.
I know some of the letters.
See all
I
those
know
books behind you, Paul?
R,
See all
and
those
I
books?
know W.
I haven't read a single one.
Very good. You're getting better, Alex.
Thank you.
But I've heard a lot, and I've read a lot of books about and lectures and YouTube videos about like the correct way to run a business, and I've never seen it in practice until now.
Yeah.
And granted, I do work for a very small company. There's like 10 employees, and the owner, and he's right at the top, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But to see it is really inspiring. And it was clear that he knew that there was something troubling me after, the passing of my friend and everything else that was going on, that he didn't just give up on me. He saw potential.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also an important lesson for anybody who's managing anybody. If you see somebody with potential, don't give up on them just because they're not doing their job. Spend some time with them, invest in them.
No, he basically did what you did for that kid that you were that came into your shop. He essentially did that for you. He saw the potential, and you saw okay, this guy's got potential. He's just a little troubled.
Right.
Give him some attention, kind of figure it out. So there's definitely a correlation between those two stories.
Exactly. It just so happened, unfortunately, that I was more receptive in this case.
Yeah.
But that aside,
Well, because
you're correct.
It's also because he was paying you money.
Well,
Also
yeah.
That is a factor.
But I've never worked for somebody like this before. The guy looks like Jerry Springer, first of all, which is amazing.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Wonderful.
And he is very self-aware of everything. I remember there was a conversation I had where I've got two the owner and a coworker who are both very verbose. If you get stuck in a conversation with them, you're not getting out for about half an hour minimum. And I hate it because I don't like small talk. But I remember I was on the phone with my boss, and the other person messaged me, and I said, "Hey, I'll have to get back to you when I'm done on the phone with the boss." And his response was, "Oh, well, I'll talk to you in 45 minutes then," because he knew.
He knew.
And then I remember at the end of that conversation when I'm wrapping up with my boss, I said, "Hey, I need to talk to this other person." He just messaged me. He said, "Oh, you're going to talk to so-and-so? Well, I'll talk to you in 4 hours then."
That's fun.
That's really good. One, good reminder. Thank you. Two, I've been through half of that experience, and I can definitely say the whole having somebody above you who believes in you is crazy important, and I feel super lucky to have had. It's my mic stand, Alex. I know what I'm doing.
Well, you got the shitty one. So.
We really need to mark that one.
Yeah. So anyway, good reminder.
So
All right.
totally ruined your story. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I just forgot what I was talking about it.
Just
well-
knowing when to invest in people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a very important skill to look at somebody and say, this person sucks.
Don't double down on Facebook comments. Double down on your employees.
Exactly.
Excellent callback.
Yes. And as someone who is, I am not in a position of leadership, but having, I can mirror his experience with having a manager that cares about your development or performance and is actually invested.
That means a lot.
Means so much. And knowing that the person above you has your back and isn't just looking for reasons to write you up for shit is really important.
Yeah,
Well, it
somebody
adds-
on your side.
Yeah.
And adds a whole new level of accountability that you didn't have before. It's like, oh,
That's true.
this person cares about me. I can't let them down.
I want
Right.
to do a good job.
Right. I want to make them proud because if they're putting so much into me and I fail, that reflects on them
It's
as
all
well.
a positive feedback
Right.
loop.
Exactly.
Right. And that's a good thing to have. And I just see so many people who are just stuck in their jobs and don't want to move because it's so much work. But
Yeah,
at
change
the same
is
time,
hard.
It is hard. But sometimes you just need to find the right company and the right person that manages you to really light a fire under you.
Yeah, and then spark some...
Save money when you're happy. That's what I always say.
Nobody saves money.
I know. Especially if you make commission, then that whole idea is just out the window. It doesn't matter. It'll come back around. Okay.
Right.
Well, anyway.
It's like gambling.
Yeah. Yeah. Really.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, thanks so much for
Yeah,
all that.
that was fantastic.
Yeah, there's just kind of one last
Yeah.
lesson on this whole thing, which is just kind of, like I was saying earlier, it's people are going to live their own lives, and that's going to impact you, and you have to live your own life, and sometimes you need to remember that what you're doing in your life is going to impact the people around you, and that's important.
Yeah.
But also, people are going to do things that are going to impact you as well. And you need to live your life in such a way that you kind of minimize that impact as much as possible. Because just because somebody says something stupid on Facebook doesn't mean your whole life gets ruined after the fact, right?
I
Right.
have a lot of friends that get into dumbass arguments on Facebook. It's just why? Why are you doing that? Getting all heated over a
It's
new Batman movie.
Facebook.
Right.
No one cares.
It's not real.
But in the end, it's kind of cliche. It's just, try to have the most positive impact on the people around you while also maneuvering yourself away from the people who have the most negative impact on you.
Yes, avoid negative people, but also keep a self-awareness of how you may be a negative person to
Right.
other people.
You
So-
need
And maybe fix that.
Your goal should be to give the most and put up with the least.
Right,
Perfect.
exactly.
Yeah, good way to sum it up.
You need to know when the person in your car is a wanted criminal. And you need to know when, somebody is legitimately trying to help you in your career and accepting that and graciously.
Yeah. Sometimes just plan the bowling party, man.
Right, just plan the bowling party, let it happen.
And in hindsight, maybe go for the top shelf.
Yeah, that's a regret of mine.
Hey, man. Well, the well is just as good.
Oftentimes.
With enough mix-ins, you can't taste the.
Why do you think I brought this bag of Jolly Ranchers?
But yeah, that's what I've learned in my life is, like I said, just
That's a good message and a positive message, and
Right.
one I fully endorse for whatever the fuck that means.
So yeah, no, it's
Self-awareness.
very good. It's very good. I enjoyed all of this.
No, those are fantastic stories. I'm so glad you came on, and don't know where I was going with that. Sorry.
that's fine.
Thank you so much, Paul, for one, being willing to come on the podcast, and two, having stories, and three, listening to the episodes before you came on.
Yeah, that's kind of really nice. It's
That was
honestly a
actually
little flattering.
wonderful.
No, I really enjoy what you guys do. This has been fantastic. I really enjoy listening to the episodes, and it's great having you. I really appreciate you having me on. It's,
Anytime.
Yeah.
it's nice to have a platform to preach.
No, yeah. No, we've gone on some major rants. You've heard the one that Dallas put some music behind.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Oprah.
the epic Oprah rant.
Yes, fuck Oprah.
I was listening to an unnamed podcast recently, and one of their couple last episodes, they talked about how they loved Oprah and they needed a new Oprah in their life, and they were looking for a new Oprah, and then I unsubscribed and deleted the podcast. I literally unsubscribed.
Nope.
Thanks to Alex's newfound knowledge to me, or for me,
Yes.
on things.
Proud of you.
Sometimes I ignore things that make me angry, like politics. So you can follow us on the So WTY Learn
Join our Facebook group.
podcast that on Instagram and the Twitters. There's a Facebook group. You can go on the Reddits, which 0 people are involved on.
Well, we have a Reddit account. We don't have a Reddit page.
Oh, see, I keep
no.
getting those
Hold
two
up.
things
yeah.
confused.
So we have.
Dallas, you are too young to say the Reddits.
It's like the interwebs. It's a series of
Oh no, I say the
tubes.
Twitters.
I have at minimum 50 years on you. Reddits. You can't call it the Reddits.
Well, I will accept that and move on. You can send us an email about how I should pronounce things or the way I should speak sentences at sowdwdylearn@gmail.com. And if you'd like to submit a short story or whatever the fuck, just
A long story too.
send it on in.
Send us your deets.
Yep.
Your
Yes.
digis.
So
Digideets.
And also one more request: please go rate and review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever the fuck it's called now.
I think is it not iTunes?
It's still
anymore?
iTunes
Still
right now.
iTunes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
go to that one because that's the one that really matters, and it gets more eyes on the podcast, and it helps. I've been told.
Yes, and if you can rate us whatever you want, but if you have a constructive criticism and you rate us 5 stars, we will definitely take it under advisement. If you give us a 1-star review, and you're like, they're all gay and I hated it, then we'll be like, yeah, fuck your opinion.
That was my my review.
That was you? Oh, God damn it, Zach.
I heard a rumor that Alex will send you $5 if you put a $5-star review in.
Yes, doll hairs. I'll send you
Doll
$5 hairs.
Perfect. But we will read your review on the podcast. so.
Exactly. And also stay tuned because we are also working on potentially maybe some other projects that might
Yeah.
come down the
Yeah.
pipe.
Coming down
add
the
to our
So What'd You Learn pipe.
podcast. Yeah, they're coming down the big, fat, girthy pipe.
Jesus.
God. Okay, we really need to.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, Paul. You're brilliant.
Thank you, Paul.
Cue the
you.
guitars.
Bye, everybody. We love you.
The So What Did You Learn podcast is brought to you by the So What Did You Learn network. Theme written and recorded by Jacob Rose. Our logo was designed by Stevie Van Bronckhorst. Further work of hers can be found at stevievanb.com.